Hey there, Kenneth French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad you stopped by. We're hanging out today with the anti-financial advisor who guarantees you're going to be rich. Not exactly, but that's pretty darn close. Chris Miles, what's up?
Hey, Kennard, it's good to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, big day today. Why? Chris Miles is launching his book, formally having a launch party today, and we get to hang out with him. We're going to be talking about his book and how it's going to help you, the entrepreneur, hopefully become the next billionaire. Let's talk about your deal. Special deal, really quickly. How is your book going to add value to the people who are watching and listening out there?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, the book is the work optional blueprint. And really what it's about is how to get away from the traditional slave and save mentality that you've been taught to, the typical thing of save your money in your 401ks and IRAs, save it forever, pay off all your debt, and someday, hopefully, you'll have something left. And the truth is, it just hasn't worked. And so I provide an alternative path, right? A path that you hear about like in books like Think and Grow Rich, or even Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? By Robert Kiyosaki. They talk about this passive income, but how do you actually do it without having to become a slave to those investments too? How do you actually be a hands-off investor? How do you actually improve your cash flow, get your money freed up, as we talked about, get lean, get liquid, and get that money out to create passive income so you become work optional with enough passive income to work because you want to, not because you have to.
All right. So how many people, by the way, to write a book, usually you have to get a following. So
Mhm.
obviously you've done some good because it sounds like your book's exploding and thank goodness, right? For you and your wallet and your business probably, right? So
Right.
give me one example of how you completely changed, let's say an entrepreneur's life based on what you've done in the book.
Yeah, I mean, even just the first phase, like getting lean, right? Which, some people would think like, oh, it's just living on a budget. And that's not what it is at all. It's more about how do we live in an abundant way, a stewardship type of mentality with our money. And so this guy was a chiropractor in Minnesota, he's doing great in his business, but he still had that feeling like I'm making good money, but where's it all going? And so we started to look at his cash flow. We looked at line item by line item, started to look at even some of the loans and things he had. And we said, hey, listen, we do like this, do some refinance and do some creative things here. And even like the stupid money that's sitting in the stock market, not really doing much. What if we could use that money, create instant cash flow today? And so we used that money to then help free up $6,000 a month in
Mm.
his life.
Hmm.
And the great thing is, what did he do? The very first thing he did is he went and bought a $6,000 four wheeler. Now, before you judge this guy, right?
Mm.
Here's the deal. Like his wife said, she's like, Chris, I know you won't judge us because you've been more broke than everybody that I know, but still, with that $6,000 four wheeler he bought, this wasn't just about the four wheeler. It's about the fact that he gave himself permission to stop working and slaving away 5, 6 days a week. Now instead, he's actually taking the weekends off. He's relaxing. He's not burnt out by the end of the week. He's actually relaxing with us and the family. He's going on that four wheeler, spending time with our kids every weekend now. She's like, you understand that $6,000, that four wheeler represents that we got, my kids got their father back and I got my husband back. And that's the kind of freedom we talk about, right? So that's another example there. Another one is I had a guy that was, out in California and he's just like, man, if I just work hard, if I just pay off all my debt, pay off my house. And he had a rental property to use. If I just pay off my rental property, my house, I'll free up $4,200 a month. And then eventually I'll just have to keep saving and saving for my retirement accounts too, right? And be better. And I said, here's the deal. I'm like, looking at your whole situation right here, looking at holistically, if instead of locking your money in prison, because he was locking it up in his retirement accounts, so he couldn't touch it. And remember, he was in his 40s at this time. He was locking money away by trying to pay off his houses. But the problem is this, that he was just so hyper focused on that saver scarcity mentality that Dave Ramsey and everybody tries to convince you that's supposed to be the way to freedom, which it's not, because those people don't become free. They become our clients saying, hey, I'm worth $2 or $3 million. Now what do I do? Right. That's the thing that people have, they don't have that income. And so that was what he was lacking. I said, listen, looking at this situation, you've got this rental property here. It's got $800,000 of equity in it. but how much is your cash flow after you pay all your expenses? He's like, 200 bucks a month. But when I pay it off though, if I just in 6 years, if I'm just diligent, I will pay this off and it'll be 2,400 a month.
Hmm.
I said, well, you realize that's less than 30 grand a year on 800 grand of equity. You could literally sell your house, put in a CD and make more money than that. So I'm like, what if instead we sell the house, take that equity and tax free transfer it to other properties out east, not in California where the rental properties suck, but out east. And so he did that. And the cool thing is that he went and bought like 6 properties with that same money. So that one property's equity became 6 properties. It made like little babies, right? It's almost like playing Monopoly. It's like, hey, what if we like all of a sudden buy a bunch of houses to go on these properties? He did that. Well, now, just about 4 years later, he reached out to me. He says, "Chris, now I've built it up to buy a couple more properties. I'm now over 100 grand a year of passive income just from that money." He went from 200 bucks a month to over $8,000 a month with the same money, not even extra money, just that same money reinvested, creating that what I call that income avalanche as you reinvest that income that's coming in to then compound your income versus just throwing away in some crappy little 401k and hoping you compound interest over the next 50,000 years.
Yeah, those are 2 good examples. I mean, obviously, I mean, you come well referred, so and I've known you for a while. I know you've been able to change people's lives, and those are 2 good stories. I think and speaking of changing lives, I think now that you're an author, I think that's gonna change your life because 'cause I've found in a big way, being an author is just blowing up our business. I mean, by the way, I should mention, modernmillions.ai, make millions, save millions, protect millions, all with the use of AI, which we've been using for years here. But I think from writing a book it gives you validity. For one, it gives you as an author, it makes you think about whatever your topic is, number one. Then number two, it gives you validity, whatever your topic of the day is. And for you, obviously, it's being the anti-financial advisor. So if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about the book and kind of the process, because I think some of the people out there like to hear that. So what made you, think about writing the book and what's been your experience now that you've written the book, it's out for a while now, et cetera?
Yeah, there's a few things that contributed to that because I'll tell you, I hate writing. As a business owner, this is why I have a podcast for the last 11 and a half years. I just passed my 1,000th episode, right?
Nice work.
And
Nice work.
and I know you've got hundreds and hundreds as well. You're almost there too. And
Mm,
so like for me, like that was like my way around having to write a book. I mean,
mm,
understand my thesis that I wrote in college was 38 pages when I added graphs and charts because I just like why do I want to BS and just keep writing and writing about the same thing? I'm like, here's the information, ta-da,
yeah.
done, right? Well, to your point with your book, right? Modern AI, right? Like that, I mean, right there, my friend reached out to me and says, Chris, like, have you ever thought about transcribing your podcasts and a lot of the things you've been doing and putting it into a book and using Chat GPT to help with that, using AI to help with that? I said, I've heard people talk about transcribing, but then I still have to write it. He's like, yeah, but with chat, you can make it better because now you don't have to just like go through and do it all. Chat can even do some of the editing and reformatting for you with those transcriptions. So he actually helped got the start, but then he dropped the project. He got busy. He was even helping Russell Brunson's marketing guy do it, start to use it too. And
Mhm.
so he got busy. He said, hey, here's 100 pages of like material that's been chat GPT'd up, here you go. And so I decided, I was like, okay, it's kind of dry. Let's add some heart to it. Let's add some stories and things like that. And so I started working on it with somebody else that was a writer that was better at writing than I was to help me really kind of craft this. And the next day I know, now it's over 200 pages long
Mhm.
but easy read. My wife read half the book in like an hour.
Mhm.
So it's like it's one of those great, great reads that now has become something better. And I'll tell you, I've had people pressure me to do a book for
Mhm.
a while because they're like, "Yeah, it's good to hear it, but I would love to just have it in one place I can see it. Like I'm a
Mhm.
visual, person, I need to see this." And so that really gave me that ability to do so. And like you talk about making millions with AI, man, like that's exactly what we were able to do with this book.
I like that. That shows the power of AI, and it shows how it could augment you and what you're doing, but also you're using your creative flavor to
Yeah.
obviously add value to the marketplace. So, obviously today is a big day for you. You put together a launch party. Hopefully, I gave a little bit of input there. Tell us about that because I think a lot of authors out there, and there are some authors or potentially some authors out there who were thinking about putting together a book, and I mean, really doing a launch, a big launch. I think a launch party helps. Explain a little bit about the launch party you put together, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't wanna do a launch party like Alex Hormozy where it's like 7 hours long
Hmm.
because I would bore myself if it was that long.
Yeah.
And so remember, this is the guy that wrote 38-page
Yeah.
thesis.
Yeah.
So, so mine's only about a couple hours that we're doing, but we're launching this book. I mean, we're inviting people like Sharon Lechter, who's a co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Eddie Wilson, who's one of the co-founders of Aspire, as well as exited and like hundreds of millions of dollars in businesses. I even bring on David Richter, who you might have had on before too, who does profit first for real estate investing. So bringing these guys on, we're even bringing on some of our own clients to talk about, hey, we've actually applied the book. Here's how it looks, right? Here's how it looked for us. Just really a great party. And the great thing is we're like giving away like over $1,000 worth of giveaways for those that
Hmm.
order the book. And so that's something that we'll probably even offer your audience too. Like, even though it'll be a little bit late to the party, no pun intended, but
Yeah.
it's a pun. Definitely still, we'd love to be able to have you guys join us because I'm even going to give some gifts that are going to help even apply the book. So it's not just something that it's like shelf help, you put on a shelf and it just collects dust. It's something you
Hmm.
can actually take, learn from, and then implement on.
Yeah, and this recording, I'm going to assume, is going to come out a couple of days after that. So you were nice enough to mention it for our community. At least, our audience is pretty big. So what would throw? What do they get? What do they get if they one get your book?
Yeah.
Meaning the benefits of your book truly to people who are small business owners, usually real estate investors. What's the benefit you think they'll get? And they're all over the country, by the way. Usually solopreneurs, by the way. And then the giveaways as an example to go to your website, etc.
Yeah. So what you do is you buy the book on Amazon, just like everybody else does on this planet, it seems like. And when you go to buy the book, send us the receipt. And so you can just email us info@moneyripples.com. Show us a copy of the receipt that you bought the book. And what we'll do is we'll give you an actual free access to our Cashflow Secrets course.
Mm.
It's like when I mentioned that chiropractor that he freed up $6,000 a month, that was like one of like 7 secrets that we show people of how to free up more cash flow, especially if you're a business owner,
Mhm.
big time. I mean, most people will usually find at least 500 on the low end if you're almost broke, 500 bucks a month to thousands a month, applying that stuff. So we offer that. We also have a strategy that we talk about in the book where people have been asking about it a lot lately, which is the max ROI infinite banking, which is
Mhm.
how do you use it like something as dumb as life insurance and actually use it to make money in 2 places at once when you're trying to invest, whether it be in your business or outside of it too. So we have this, infinite banking explained uh, course that we offer too, again for free.
Mhm.
So that right there is a couple $100 worth of bonuses and value. But the biggest one is this: is that starting next week, I mean, you're watching this right now, so hopefully you're watching it the day of. Starting next week, we're gonna do a 3-week type of course to help you apply it. So it's actually a
Mhm.
live course. Yes, we'll send you the recordings after if you want to be able to review it too. But it's a live course. We talk about how do you actually go through of getting lean, get liquid, and then getting that money out to create passive income. So it really helps you almost create a side by side journey as you go along with learning
Mhm.
from this book, which is kind of where the book flow goes through as well. We're actually
Mhm.
telling you here's how you can actually do it practically.
All right, let's go over that again slowly because I think that's you're adding some value to our audience, and thank you for those gifts. So they go to Amazon.
Mhm.
They probably look for Chris Miles, Miles,
Yep.
as an
Look for
example.
the work optional blueprint.
Work optional blueprint. Purchase the book, either Kindle or hard copy or probably soft copy, any of the above.
Mhm.
Then they send the receipt, print it off, send the receipt to you again, and that's info@moneyripples.com. Was that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Info@moneyripples.com. And then they can go on that journey, basically free of charge. I mean, that's a huge benefit. So,
Yep.
wow, thank you very much. I dig that. Totally dig that. All right, let me ask a few more questions because I think this is pretty cool. The people out there should really take you up on that. I know that you're a big infinite banking person. Let's
Mhm.
let's walk that through because we, frankly, I'll be blunt, we probably don't do that enough in some cases. When explain the infinite banking process, and because that's a core element of your book, I gotta assume.
Yeah, the ultimate concept behind it. I mean, I didn't come up with the infinite banking concept. That was Nelson Nash back in like the 90s, right? Um, but the overall concept is always having your money flow, right? Is always constantly flowing your money, not letting it sit still. That's why it's infinitely moving, right? It's infinitely growing and moving and helping you make more money.
Mhm.
Well, the vehicle of choice, right, that we use is whole life insurance.
Mhm.
which when I first learned about it as a, because I was a former financial advisor. I was a guy that was a salesman in a suit selling you on mutual funds and Wall Street investments. And then I realized when my own dad, he couldn't even retire himself at 61 years old after being the penny pinching saver, after being debt free, doing everything that you've been taught to do, and yet he couldn't live on that money for more than 5 or 6 years. I realized like this isn't working. And so I left. I found guys who are in real estate investing, and then they start talking about this concept, not just the real estate investing part, but then they're talking about using this whole life insurance, which I thought would be the worst thing to use. Because as a financial advisor, I was taught that was the worst thing to use. Now, here's if you don't understand what it is, it's this is that yes, life insurance, it has a death benefit, but with whole life insurance, it also has this tax-free high yield savings account. I
Mhm.
was taught as a financial advisor, it was a very low yield savings account that you would make maybe 1 or 2% a year. That's not true. It's actually paying you right now 6% a year tax free on that money. But here's the problem. Most people, even the ones that talk about infinite banking, even though they say, hey, we do some things to help make it work faster, they still charge you too much in fees. Because the
Mhm.
truth is, the higher those insurance costs, the more they get paid in commissions.
Mhm.
And so eventually in our company, even though I was referring it out to people to use it, in our company, we actually said, let's lower those costs because if we can lower the costs of that insurance, now that money grows and they're tax free. Now, if you just did nothing with it, you just let it sit there and grow, it can be a great place to store your emergency savings account, when you want that rainy day fund. A great place to store it because it's better than making point nothing percent at the bank that you then get taxed on that point nothing percent. This is literally tax free. It's also 100% protected from lawsuits and creditors. So if somebody sues you and wins, or there's a creditor after you, they cannot get to this money, even if there's millions of dollars stored there, at least in most states in the United States.
Mhm.
Now, the part that people say, well, like, wait, you can use this with investments because most people, even if they teach this, they'll say, oh, it's like a supplemental retirement. Although that's the case, yes, you can create tax-free retirement in this, and you can even retire early using this strategy. I teach people about how you can also, beyond being a great place to store money, a great place to make money in two places at once.
Mhm.
How? Well, because this money is guaranteed. It's not tied to the stock market. It pays you at least a minimum of 3 or 4% a year. Banks, as well as insurance companies, are willing to lend you money based on the money that's sitting in this policy. So, for example, say you've built it up to $100,000 and you say, hey, I want to be able to access some of that money. Maybe you want to access 50,000 of it. You could withdraw the money, but if you withdraw the money, just like you pull money out of savings, what happens is that now you're not earning interest on that 50,000 you just pulled out. Now you have to make money in that one place wherever you invest it. Could be in your business, could be buying real estate or whatever it might be. But here's the great thing is that what if you have it in two places at once, right? Because instead of pulling that money out, instead you use a line of credit, whether it's from a bank or the insurance company, they give you a line of credit where there's no monthly payment.
Mhm.
They'll charge you interest. That's the one
Interesting.
falsehood out there, right? They'll charge you interest. But because you have this guaranteed collateral, they'll be willing to give you up to 95% of that as a loan. So you get this 95%, loan to value, so to speak, right? It's almost like having a HELOC, but it pays you interest because you're still earning 6% plus tax-free compounding interest on that 100 grand. But now you get this 50,000 out that you can then go and invest. And let's just say that 50,000, you invest in your business, maybe some marketing strategy, and start going to kick off for you, say $5,000 a month. You take that 5,000 and you start to flow it through like infinite banking, right? You
Mhm.
start to take the 5,000, use it to start paying down your line of credit. Well, as you pay down line of credit, guess what it does? Frees up more money to use it again. But the great thing is, again, the interest they charge you goes down, but the interest they're paying you goes up.
Okay.
So you make a net profit on the interest they pay you, and you're making money by using it, whether it be in your business or use it in real estate or wherever it might be. And truth is, you can use it for wherever you want. You don't have to get permission. You don't have to have great credit score because this doesn't show up on your credit
So
report.
you're your own bank, really, in that case. Yeah.
You are. Yeah, you really are. Like, so it's perfectly safe and collateralized for that reason. By the way, Walt Disney, who's known for not having a great credit score because Walt Disney took a lot of gambles and he would lose money, but he would also make big money too, right? Well, in the 1950s, what happened? He wanted to create Disneyland. He wanted to create this theme park that didn't have alcohol, which they thought was impossible to do. But he wanted it. Well, he couldn't find all the money to be able to do it. Banks didn't want to lend to him. Even the networks. He went to like NBC and CBS. They didn't want to touch it. But this new and upcoming network called ABC, which of course we know ABC is part of
Mhm.
Disney now, right?
Mhm.
ABC said, tell you what, if you put in some of your own money as collateral, we'll put in the rest. So what did he do? He sold off his second home and he used his life insurance, specifically that tax-free savings account, as collateral to then use to show, hey, here, I've got the money.
Mhm.
I put skin in the game. Now you come in with the rest. And that's what ABC did. And now we've got the happiest place on earth that you'll wait in line for an hour and a half smiling like it's the best thing in the world, right? That was all because he was able to leverage his life insurance policy. That's what infinite banking is, right? That's the cool thing.
It really is leverage or multiplier effect. We did that here. I'll tell you a story. I think I told you one other time. We did it with an attorney who's in LA. He's putting in. I don't think you're a big advocate of defined benefit plans, but we do a
Mhm.
lot of them here. But he did a defined benefit plan where he was putting away about $200,000 a year. Let's say I don't know the exact. Let's just say his tax bracket is about 40% because he's a big wage earner and he's big guy in general. Financially, and then he saved whatever. Let's say it was $100,000. His tax savings, basically, what he was doing was whatever tax savings he felt like he was getting via the defined benefit plan, he was opening a policy, just like what you're talking about, whole life, et cetera, and using that his tax savings to put into the policy on an ongoing basis. And then with that, as that grew, then he pulls money out of the insurance policy, and then he ends up leveraging it and putting it into real estate, and it's done wonders for him. I just talked. Actually, I'm going to be meeting with him in a couple of weeks, and I know the last time I talked to him, he's still happy about it. One, the tax savings that he's experienced, and then two, pulling money from the example of infinite banking and with it growing and him leveraging in and et cetera, et cetera. It's been a great process for him. He's loved it. So I think your idea it makes a lot of sense. It's validated in the marketplace too. It really is.
Yeah, he's kinda doing his own version of, like, what Jim Harbaugh,
Yeah,
who's the coach of
exactly.
the San
That's
Diego
exactly right.
Chargers
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, one thing people didn't realize that when Jim Harbaugh was with Michigan, when he was coaching college football there, they gave him a bonus package, right? Now, instead of taking normal compensation, because he could do that, instead, he was actually loaned $2,000,000 a year from the University of Michigan. Now, when you receive something as a loan, you're not taxed on it. Now, if he were to take a $2,000,000, extra bonus or compensation for them, he's gonna have massive taxes, like you're talking about 40% plus, right?
Mhm.
But instead, he's like, no, loan me the money, the $2,000,000 a year, which he then would put into a very kind of defined benefit plan using whole life insurance.
Mhm.
And so he would use that for the next 5 years to build up his cash in there. So now he's able to earn tax-free interest on that money. He can take out that money, tax-free interest as well. He also provides a much nicer death benefit for his family if anything were to happen to him. The only agreement he has is that that loan is a 0% loan that Michigan gave him. He just has to pay back either one, like if he had left, which he did, and or two, later on when he dies, they have to get paid back that money that they loaned him, that 10 million plus dollars that they gave him. And so, but all in the meantime, he's making interest off of it. It's the same thing the banks do on us, right? That's kind of what
100%. Exactly.
banks
That's
are infinite
exactly right.
banking all the time, aren't they? I mean, they're literally borrowing money from us at dirt cheap interest rates to then go out and turn around and loan it out to other people to create that arbitrage to make much, much more the way we make. It's the same thing. You can do the same thing with your own plan as well. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah, very few people know about that. I'm impressed you know that. That's awesome. Hence the reason you're the anti-financial advisor. That was an anti-financial advisor type of strategy, and it worked out for him.
Mhm.
Clearly, it's worked out for your two clients you already mentioned. So let me ask this: what's kind of next? Now the book's coming out, and you're doing the launch, or it's been out for a month, but now you're doing the launch today. Again, congratulations, by the way. That's huge. What's kind of next as a result of you having this big time book out there in the internet sphere, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a stressful thing, trying to do a book and a book launch. I've
Yeah.
realized, especially when you don't like writing that much. It's nice to have that baby born. Ultimately, my whole thing, money ripples, right, is about creating a ripple effect because as you prosper financially, you can create a greater ripple effect. I haven't mentioned on the show yet, but I myself became financially free at the age of 28 back in 2006.
Mm.
When the recession hit, I lost everything. Didn't go bankrupt, but I went over $1,000,000 in debt, had to dig out of that hole, and then was able to do it again by the end of 2016. So where I had enough passive income coming in that I could really not even I wouldn't have to keep money ripples. I could just
Mhm.
let it go and say, cool, I'm fine. But I don't believe God put us on this planet to just be comfortable sitting on a beach, drinking your margaritas, right?
Mm.
I really believe that we're here to do more. It's like we're, with great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility, kind of like Spider-Man, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of the same thing I feel as well. It's like I feel like you have that money to use, why not use to bless more lives? And that's our mission. That's the what we teach other people to do too. It's not just become financially independent or free, but to bless lives in the process.
Mm.
And ultimately, my vision is that by 2030, have over 1,000 people, 1,000 families financially independent by 2030. And so this book is one of those things to help me do so. It's just another avenue beyond my podcast and my YouTube channel and things like that to really help people make that a reality.
By the way, if your goal is 1,000, how many are you at now? Do you know?
Right now, I mean, financially independent, we've got probably a good couple dozen or so that are there
Mhm,
already, with several more in the wings. We probably got over
mhm.
100 people that are probably going to be there in the next few years. So really, we gotta really ramp it up a lot more.
I'm sure you'll do that. So wait a minute, you mentioned YouTube and your podcast. How does someone listen and watch those?
Yeah, so YouTube, you can just find Money Ripples with Chris Miles. That's our YouTube channel. Same thing, the podcast is on that same channel as well.
Real quick, talk about your podcast. 1,000. Yeah, we're at 500. We just crossed the 500 barrier. Now you're at 1,000, which I can't imagine. Oh, that's unbelievable. Nice work. So tell us a little bit about what some would learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, really, the Money Ripples podcast is around creating financial freedom today, not 30 or 40 years from now, right? Kind of like my sign says, live your life now, not tomorrow. I'll tell you, like, I had one guy that actually heard me on another podcast. It was another real estate investor podcast, started following me on my podcast, reached out. He said, I just retired from the military. I've got $1 million saved up in my 401k. I'm 60 years old, but my financial advisor just said I can live on 30,000 a year. And I said, well, that sucks. He's like, yeah, I live in California. Nobody can live on
Yeah, yeah,
30,000.
exactly. Yeah.
That's like homeless, right? Yeah, I mean, it's like certain areas of Seattle are like that, or Vancouver, BC, right? I mean, it's just the same thing. You can't just live on that. And so he was looking for answers. And so when he found us, we started helping him. We figured out, like, how do we get that money out of his, traditional retirement plans, use that to create passive income now. I started doing things with oil and gas. We started doing things in real estate. He had a few duplexes he bought. He got in some apartment syndications and whatnot. And the list goes on and on. Eventually, instead of 30,000 a year, he was now living on over 130,000 a year with that same money, that same $1 million. Well, just this last spring, here in 2025, he passed away. He was 64 years old. He was sitting at his desk on a Monday night, just on his computer, had a heart attack, and he was gone like that.
Mm.
And it was definitely sad. But I heard from his best friend. His best friend texted me saying, "Hey, I just want you to know, Dan talked about you all the time. Like, he really, like, he gave you a lot of credit for changing his life."
Does that make you
Um,
feel good? Yeah, cool. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. His sons, he started taking him. He even before he passed away, he took them to like some of these investor meetups and things like that to say, "Hey, this is a whole new world. Don't listen to traditional crap. It doesn't work. I know. I did it." And so just seeing that. I mean, even though he passed away way too young, still, I'm just grateful he had those 4 years that he was able to choose to live life on his terms. He was able to volunteer at the fire, service and things like that and do different projects that he wanted to do. That's what I love. And that's ultimately what we want people to do is become free to do what you love, to do it with those that you love.
Nice work, Chris Miles. I like that. That's probably a good way to close this episode. But before we do that, what's one thing we have not talked about that you think can add value, either about your book or about your process being the anti-financial advisor? Just one thing we haven't talked about you think can add value to the listeners and viewers out there.
Yeah, especially if you're a business owner, I would say this is that every entrepreneur, every business owner needs passive income. But I'll tell you this, if you're just starting out, don't even worry about this passive income stuff. If you don't have at least 150,000 plus dollars just sitting around, not for your emergencies or for your business, but just sitting around that you're looking to invest, don't even worry about this passive income topic. Focus primarily on your business. That should be your number one investment, despite what every financial advisor will tell you, right? That is not the case. Your business should be the number one investment. But remember this, as you become profitable, don't put all your money back in the business to where you're not profitable. Take some of that profit home. Your spouse will thank you for it. But
Mhm.
also, too, it allows you then to take that money to create more freedom. So you have multiple streams of passive income. So there's no more 2020 essential versus non essential business shutdowns and things like that. You can actually be ready and prepared so that no matter what life's curves are thrown at you, you're going to be free. You know your family and you are protected.
Wow. On that note, once again, Chris Miles, the anti-financial advisor. This is Kenneth French. Man, this has been a good one. Vast Voice telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.